Okay, set the timer. Still not cool. But I don't want to leave it on the stove too long.
Okay.
The bottom of the pan is still pretty warm. What was that?
Kids.
This is a total Zoom meeting, right? It's not.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining. We'll wait just a couple more minutes before we get started as more people are filing in. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're going to wait just one more minute while some other people are joining the meeting from the waiting room. If you could all please mute your microphones, and also please introduce yourself and sign in the chat using the chat function in the bottom center of your screen. The meeting's already being recorded and the chat will be recorded as well. Thanks.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Siobhan Ahern. I'm the board president of the Admiral Heights Improvement Association. Welcome to the spring membership meeting virtually by Zoom. Thanks so much for being here with us. A couple of points of organization as we get started. If everyone could please mute your microphones, that would be really helpful. And also please sign in using the chat function with your name and the street that you live on, just so that everyone knows you're here. The meeting is already being recorded and will be posted later on our website, as well as on Facebook to share with those who can't join us. And the chat function will also be recorded. And so if you have comments or questions or other things that we need to follow up with after the meeting, please make sure they get into the chat and into the record. So with that, we will get started. Let's see. We have fantastic. All right, I'm just looking at the number of people that are signing in, and a few more people are also trickling in from the waiting room. So I'll keep making sure that they get let in as we go. But let's roll. So we have a fairly straightforward agenda this evening. And I just wanted to, in addition to welcoming everybody to join this meeting, I wanted to pass over a couple of details about the meeting itself and why it's virtual. So we've definitely gotten some comments from people about why this meeting isn't in person, which are totally understandable. And I just wanted to start off by clarifying that when we started planning this meeting, we were still in the post-holiday COVID surge. And there was a lot of uncertainty about mask requirements and group meetings and so on and so forth. And I know that already seems like ancient history because we intended to put it behind us so quickly, but for purposes of this meeting, we felt that it would be safest to just plan an approach that was all online so that we could have the best possible participation from members who could sign in, record the information and share it in a better format than we did in the in-person November meeting. And finally, because the voting for elections is all virtual and by email as well, we thought this would be a good kickoff. So with that said, I'm so glad that all of you could join us. I know that, for the few folks who just joined in the last few minutes, let me repeat, the meeting's being recorded and the chat function is also being recorded. So please sign in with your name and the street that you live on in the chat, and please make sure that your microphone is muted during the meeting. We didn't set this meeting up as a webinar that was one way. We actually set it up as a meeting so we can have some interaction. And so one of the things that goes along with that is that we all need to mute our microphones when we're not speaking. So thanks so much for that. All right. So the other point that I wanted to make during my welcome tonight is we are actually cycling off a couple of board members who've been with us for quite a while. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to Tanya McGinnis and to Bo Conroy for the time that they spent volunteering and helping to make the board run. I also wanted to thank Grant Garcia for stepping up and taking over the chairmanship of the grounds committee in Bo and Tanya's absence. And then finally, I'd really like to thank Kat Marucci and Maggie Rogers for stepping up to lead the nomination committee for the elections. With that, we're going to get right to business and move to discuss the meeting minutes from the last November meeting. I know that they have been posted on our website and they've also been shared by email. I'm going to repost the link in the chat just right now for everybody that might want to either download that link or take a look at it. But here they are. And I think Cindy, you're on, so I'm going to turn it over to you to ask for the motion for consensus approval.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. If everyone's had the opportunity to review the minutes, I'd like to see if there is approval of the minutes, if everybody consents.
Hearing none. No, I suppose perhaps Cindy asking for objections or corrections would be better, because if anyone
Corrections,
has a correction, then we would
Corrections.
add that into the motion for approval.
Yes.
Approval pending the correction, so to speak. So I am not seeing any comments for corrections there. And I guess there's also the option, which was done last time, to say that if anyone has any corrections, please submit them by email before the end of the day tomorrow. And the motion would be to approve them with any submitted corrections. So that's something that we also have done before. I mean, I'm still not seeing any suggested corrections. So any of our board members want to move to make that consensus approval?
I'll move.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Liz.
Second.
Thank you. And who was the second?
Lauren Heyer.
Lauren, thank you very much. Wonderful. All right, we have a consensus approval of those. And so we'll move on now to the treasurer's report. And I believe that John was able to join us. Let me just double check. There he is.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
here.
hand it over to John Leupold, who I also should have called out with very special thanks earlier in my welcome, because John does our accounting and our finance management, and he also manages website postings and emails and social media in partnership with me. And so I'm very appreciative of John. John, please go ahead with your report.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully everybody can hear me. As always, dues are due. I feel like I say this every March. Your dues are due. So a lot of you have already paid. I think we have about right around 85 or so people who have paid their dues. Last year, I think we ended with around 250. So we still have a little ways to go there. So if you haven't paid, please go ahead and do so. Also, let me just say, if you mailed a check in the last like 3 or 4 weeks, we may not have it yet, or it may not have been processed yet, but it will be hopefully by the end of this week. So just keep an eye on the website. The link is there on the slide deck. There's also, if you go to the website, you can go to the membership list and see if your name falls on there. Just keep in mind that list is not alphabetical. It's organized by street and then by your address number. Just because that's the way it works with the spreadsheets. Even though your address number is not actually on there, that's the way it's going to be sequenced. So if you go find your name that way. You can always pay by PayPal and of course mail or check. Also, for those of you who have kayak racks, please go ahead and pay those as well. I think we have somewhere around half of the kayak racks so far. So there's quite a few missing on that end. Okay, so if we could go on to the treasurer's report. Here are the actual numbers. This is the balance sheet from last year, so you can kind of see where we closed out. All of this is available on the website too. If you go to the news events page and look at those links that are posted underneath the meeting information, you can find all of these if you'd like. So there you can see where our checking account closed, our CD, and the new dock rebuild. It's not really a checking account. I guess we should relabel that, but the dock savings account for future dock replacements down the road. Just as a reminder, the neighborhood contributes $750 to that every year, and the boat club does as well. So we can go on, I think.
Okay. 1 second.
Sure.
Sure. Oh, John, I didn't
Oh, you
add the
didn't.
second page because it
Okay.
didn't format very well. And so
Okay.
I'm adding the link right now in the chat to the full treasurer's report.
Okay.
And then let me see, I'll switch my screen share really quickly and I can just show that instead.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Let's see. This would be the budget versus actuals, right?
Yep. From
Yep, through March 27th. There you go. Okay, so that's on the screen and I can scroll it down just a little bit so you can see the whole thing.
yeah. So not a
Right.
lot. Of, this is from this year so far, our financial year 22. Not a whole lot's happened, honestly. And our dues, if you say, well, you just said 85 people paid dues. I know that number up there doesn't add up. But again, the year end from last year is there. So you can go see, a lot of people paid dues for this year in last year's budget. So I think there's about $1,200 or $1,300 from last year that were actually for this year's dues, if that makes sense. So you can kind of track all of that stuff. Again, we haven't had a whole lot yet this year. Mainly just in insurance payments and power payments. That's about it. So yeah, get your dues in, please. I think that's about it.
Very good. Thank you, John. I'll switch the share back to the slideshow.
And I should say, if anybody has any questions about their individual due payments or anything like that getting processed, please send me an email. Sometimes it does take a couple of days to respond, but I will get to you, I promise. So thanks.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. Very good. Okay, so we're moving on to our reason for being here this evening. Again, I want to really thank Kat Marucci and Maggie Rogers for doing a little bit of legwork to get some candidates nominated onto the slate. So I just want to review a couple points of process. Whoops, sorry, I went ahead without intending to. A couple of points of process on this. And just for everybody on the call who I haven't met yet, this is my first year going through this election process as a board member. And so be patient with us as we work through this. I've learned from the other folks on the board a little bit about how to go ahead. But we did this nomination process and election process virtually last year as well. And so here are the steps. And some of this is it's in our bylaws, and which you can also find on our website under the drop down about us and the link to board. You can see the link to the bylaws for the organization. And so the deal is that those 4 people who serve as officers for the board, which is me as president and Bo Conroy as vice and John as treasurer and Cindy Radulovich as secretary, are automatically elected again for the second year. Now, that doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be in those same officers' positions, but they're automatically board members the year following being an officer. And the idea behind that is to create continuity from year to year when there's changeover and turnover in the board. This year, Bo Conroy actually is out of the state. He's out of the country and he resigned his position. So we have 3 board members who will be going forward to next year, and that leaves 9 vacancies out of the 12 to be filled by this election. And so Kat and Maggie identified a few folks in the neighborhood who are really interested in being candidates for the board. And the bylaws that we work under also allow nominations during the meeting. So anyone in this meeting can nominate either themselves or someone else to go on the roster for the election ballot. And so I've got the list here of folks that you can see. The names that have asterisks next to them are currently serving board members that are interested in being candidates again and being reelected and volunteering their time. And the folks without asterisks are new people who are very generously interested in volunteering. So with that, I'd like to open the floor in the chat, please. Or if someone really needs to speak, unmute your microphone. Are there any other nominations for candidates for the board at this time? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. So the next step in the process is this. The list that we have of candidates will be in a Google form that will be sent tomorrow to every member in good standing of the association today. And so I want to clarify 2 things about two things about a member in good standing. And pardon me, I was just letting a couple more people into the meeting. So we have a list that John maintains of everyone's dues that have come in. And he is reviewing all of those to make sure that if there are some pending dues, that those will be credited, and everyone who's paid their dues and is in good standing will receive an email with a link that you can use to submit your ballot. The link will have a spot for your name and your street address so that we can verify your membership, and then it'll have check boxes for the candidates so that you can select and send in your votes. This other special note is that some of you pay with PayPal, and you have what's it called? An automatically recurring payment set up. And in the cases where you have a recurring payment already set up, you're considered in good standing. And so, for instance, if your membership were to renew in July and your next payment is scheduled for July, you'll be considered in good standing for the purposes of the election. So that's the first step. Anyone who pays their dues within the next week, we will credit that immediately and make sure that you get a link to vote. And then the ballots will be accepted for a week until next week on the 5th, and then we'll tally and announce the new board on the 6th. And the next newsletter will come out after that with the announcement and introductions of the board members. So that is the process. And I'm just going to open the floor for a minute to see if we have any questions here. Let's see.
So Siobhan, it seems
yes.
like there's a couple questions about whether
see.
Wendy and I could both be on the board since we share a household. And since we actually asked that question too. So
Right.
I don't know if there are laws about that or not.
Right. And so I did review the bylaws when you asked about it. And so any member in good standing is eligible to be a board member. The bylaws are not clear on whether a member is one per household or any member of a household in good standing. So that's something, these bylaws were written years and years ago, and it doesn't speak to that. And so I think you have both been very transparent with everyone about your household, and that you're both interested in volunteering and committing your time to help out the community. And so I think the decision, the decision we made as a board is that the members can decide in this case.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, and then Wendy had a question.
Oh, why are there not, why is it a certain amount of board members? Like, are we limited to a certain amount? As
The
far as, like,
bylaws,
how many?
yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay.
The bylaws also specify that we have 12 board members. So, but the bylaws aren't written in stone forever and ever. With an act of the board with the full support of the membership, the bylaws could be amended. But there are corporate documents that we were founded under and that we use. And so right now that it does clearly say that the board shall be comprised of 12 members.
Okay.
Got it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, let me see here. I'm scrolling back through the questions. Scott, thank you for posting the link to the dues payment. Appreciate that. Can you tell us a little bit about the new nominees? Yes, in fact, we do have a statement from each one of them, because we learned that last year when people during the spring meeting asked if the new candidates could introduce themselves on Facebook. So what we decided to do this year, since not everyone has access to or enjoys using Facebook, is that along with the ballot form, we will be sending an introduction paragraph about each of the candidates that are up. So you can read that paragraph, and in addition to the ballot form that we'll send you. Other questions? Nope. Very good. All right, with that, we will move ahead with that process. And then I would like to let's see. Oh, screen sharing stopped. I have to restart my screen so that I can share the events with all of you. Okay. Okay, there we go. So upcoming events. We have the Easter egg hunt, which is
You don't want to hear it?
Oh, sorry, one moment. Let me mute that. Very good. So the Easter egg hunt is scheduled for April 9th. And that's that event you can find more information about on the Admiral Heights Germantown Homewood Moms Club group on Facebook. You can also email the neighborhood to email us and we can forward information as needed. The Greenscape for the spring is scheduled for Saturday, April 23rd. Big thanks to Nina one more time for taking a lead on that. We've got dates set for the spring yard sale, both for the day of and a rain date the following day. And then we just wanted to make sure everybody's aware about the 4th of July bike parade, which is, as always, on the 4th of July at 10 in the morning. So let's see, we have very good. 7 minutes to 8. So several people commented about the agenda earlier today and not having space set aside for neighborhood concerns. I knew that we would get to it and we would have plenty of space. And so before we adjourn, I'd like to open up the floor, both if someone would like to either raise their hand and speak or add chats into the comment, and we'll take the next 10 minutes just to chat as a community. Okay, there's a question here about the status of the Cedar Park Road mess. And I can only imagine that that refers to the sidewalk. So this is an issue that this board has been struggling with. And I just want to be clear for everybody that's on this call that for any of you who are opposed to the sidewalk, temporary sidewalk or sidewalk plans, there are as many of you that are in favor of it. And as a board, we have reached the conclusion that while the city has taken a lead on installing what's there, we've shared the information about who you can reach out to with your comments. And we have a fabulous alderwoman in our community who's happy to talk with you. And so we will not be providing regular updates through this association unless the city sends us something to report out to you. So as the association president, that's what I can tell you. If someone is on the call that would like to speak to what the city's plans are at the moment, I'd be happy to let that person share, because that could be really helpful. Okay. Well, you're here as Joe and Lynn. If you send a message to president@admiralheights.org, I can reshare the contact information for the folks at the city who are managing the project. Sean, thanks very much. You'd like the nominees to introduce themselves and answer the questions. That's a fair question, and we will post that both on Facebook and that'll be easy enough to do in the information for the ballot. And Margaret's asking again about the voting dues procedure. not able to connect on time. Okay, Margaret, I can actually put that screen back up for you for just a second. No problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's the sort of thing that if you want people to participate, you could put that also on the Emerald Heights page as a screenshot or send it as an email to everybody.
Share what on the Admiral Heights page?
The voting dues combination information, I literally came in on the last like 6 words of that, whatever
Okay.
that was. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who would like to know the information.
Sure, that's absolutely. We'll definitely be putting the whole presentation on the website, but I think your comment about adding just specifically that screen could be very easy. So I think, let's see, is this what you're asking for, Margaret? The election of the candidates and the timeline on that?
And well, I can't see it yet because
Okay.
I'm on a phone, so I have to go
Okay.
back to see your screen and I just see your face at this point. So
Okay,
I'm not seeing it. But I understand that there's a quid pro quo between having paid one's dues and you had a timeline, and that's what I'm missing.
yes, it's on the screen now.
All righty.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
You're
And I've
welcome.
taken a screenshot.
Oh, very good. And we will definitely post this particular screen both on Facebook and link to the info on the web as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. And Kat, thank you so much for the going back and forth with Sean about that very reasonable request. And we'll definitely be getting that information together. Very good. Okay, slide decks on the website. Yeah, thank you. Maggie, to your question, yes, the link to PayPal is on the website and anyone can go there right now. All
Is
right.
PayPal the only option to get
No,
it there
ma'am.
in
You
a
can
timely fashion?
You can send a check in and you can just text me or send a message to John and say, I dropped my check in the mail.
Okay, because we don't
The
tend
mail
not,
is
we tend not to
slower
use
than,
PayPal.
yeah, I understand. And the mail's a little bit slower. So if any of you do that and do send a paper check, just please make sure to send a note to me and John, and we'll make sure to get you credited for your vote.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Laura, for paying on PayPal. Yay.
Margaret, just, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Siobhan, but Margaret, also, just in case you don't have it, if you happen to go to the website, I know PayPal isn't for everybody, but it also has the PO box that you can send a check to.
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
and that's what we'll do. That's what we've always
Yeah.
done. I was just concerned that the timeline might be a little tight, given the problems we now have with the mail.
Right? There's a problem with
And
the mail? What's wrong with the mail?
the mail runs about 3 days slower now than it used to.
Oh, well, 3 days, you're gonna be good. Trust me, we don't go there every day.
That, you know, that I'll take your word for it, but I don't know the timeline yet because I came in at the end of that and I haven't really had a chance to sit down and read the slide because I've been paying attention to you guys. So
Right?
it's just me making sure that I have the information I need. Thank you.
We appreciate you paying.
I would
Yes,
think,
thank
yes.
you. That's great. Very good. All right, let's see. Any other comments here? Very good. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for joining on Zoom. And unless there is any other comment in the chat or otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion, second?
I'll
What do you
second.
want?
Thank you,
Second.
Maggie. Thank you, Liz. Wonderful. Everyone take care. We'll be in touch by email again tomorrow with some information about our candidates. Have a great
Thanks,
night,
Dawn.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.